Welcome to the Alma Matters Podcast and our next episode, which features Professor Alona Revko, who's based at the Saïd Business School at the University of Oxford. On this podcast, we invite leaders and experts to hear their wisdom that we can share with our students and colleagues and the community about how to navigate the world and the world of work and anything in these turbulent times. So I'm really happy that Alona could join us today. For those of you who couldn't join her keynote lecture at the European Forum of Entrepreneurship today, this podcast is for you. So Alona, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting and thank you for having me here today.
It's really great to hear your talk today that delved into the intersection of social entrepreneurship, resilience, resilient ecosystems, how these work under extreme conditions. We already heard a little bit about this last year when you taught our students, Newton students, at our Oxford Summer School, but it's really great to see how that topic has been evolving as well. My first question, I suppose, is about, we hear a lot about social entrepreneurship, and I think everyone can imagine slightly different things. So can you tell us what the definition is?
Actually, I tried to provide this definition in 2016, one of my article. And for me personally, it's innovative activities. So when we talk about social entrepreneurship, it's about innovation. One person or maybe group of people who do systematic change in social and environmental field in some particular territory. So it could be local community, some city, some country. So it's just a combination of people, innovation, systemic change, and territorial community.
What I thought was really interesting about social entrepreneurship from your talk as well was about how many people it involves. We tend to think of entrepreneurs in the startup scene as often lone wolves, or we think of entrepreneurship as a solo activity in a very kind of competitive, not collaborative environment. You talked about one of the social enterprises being a restaurant chain in the Ukraine, involving hundreds of founders. So is that part of the difference as well, that it's sort of collaborative and community-based?
Yeah, actually, the face of social entrepreneurship, especially in Ukraine, more community-based, let's say. And we can see that the role of community is extremely important in this sector of economy because like the power of community and in general, community is an engine of social change, let's say. So, and yeah, I see moreover, if you talk about extreme context and for social entrepreneurship to operate in extreme context, community, it could be one of the stakeholders, let's say, who can support in different ways.
But we might think at face value that in difficult situation and under extreme conditions, people may become more individualistic, fighting for themselves and their own family. How does that square with social enterprise actually growing in the Ukraine in the cases that you brought in your research?
Well, actually, I also thought why community in Ukraine so powerful. And I thought about perhaps 2014 when we had like Maidan revolution, perhaps this social movement when people understand they have a lot of power in their own hands and they can change not only their family, not only their, community, but even the city and country as a whole. And I think after all these changes and extreme context and events in our country, we see this difference in community development and in the power list.
I think that's really interesting to inform our understanding about entrepreneurial impact in general. And it was fantastic when you took our students in Oxford to see the old fire station, the social enterprise in Oxford. I'm wondering, what do you think are the biggest insights from that comparison? Social enterprise in the UK, social enterprise in the Ukraine was a very different context.
Yeah, even for me personally, even in the UK, like more stable ecosystem. We still can see a lot of challenges which face social entrepreneurs, and actually we still can see some misunderstanding from different partners and stakeholders. For example, public sector, so they don't really always understand what is social entrepreneurship and why they should support this development of the sector. And even in this, and again, extreme context, what does it mean? It's not only about conflict, it's also about COVID in both countries. For Britain, perhaps it's like Brexit and post-Brexit syndrome, let's say. It also has like very strong influence, not even on social entrepreneurship, but on business and this system and this country in general.
And does I suppose part of the social enterprise then, and I want to move to the topic of resilience in a minute as well. Is it that the kind of the social embeddedness, the fact that it's community-based, actually help it react to those changing contexts, whatever they may be, whether it's conflict or Brexit or anything else? I wonder if that's part of the power.
Yeah, I think this unity really understands that we, I remember in 2022 in my city, which located very close to the border with Belarus and Russia, I felt on myself how it's to be a member of strong community when we support each other, when we understand we don't have electricity. So my friends, in my house my friends can come and charge their, mobile phone. So it's just in this micro action we can see the power of our strong and big community.
So it's sort of a combination of socially minded, entrepreneurial and resilient individuals and a community that's already strong, right? I'm wondering, because we focus a lot on researching and teaching self-efficacy skills like resilience. Those are the kinds of skills that generally we used to think are innate, right? You are born more gritty or more flexible or more agile. But I focus a lot on the individual elements. What I thought was particularly interesting in your talk was that it draws attention to how resilient individuals, resilient contexts, and resilient systems interact. Do they support each other? Do they feed off each other? Or how do you see that interaction working?
I think they interact with each other, and it's like step by step we should base on our individual resilience. And I really like emotional intelligence theory because it's actually about I suppose it's about individual resilience. When we understand our emotions and we can manage our emotions, when we understand emotion of others, and this next level of resilience, organizational resilience. So because we can be resilient by ourselves, but if we talk about organization, community, we should understand how we can connect with another people, even in extreme situation. And ecosystem, again, it's more about different sectors, cross-sectoral collaboration, and how we can build this resilience in cooperation between different sectors, public, private, and civil society.
I think it's really important because the definition that you actually brought in your talk of resilience draws attention to this idea that you don't just weather or survive a crisis or a change in context, but you also become stronger, or you as the individual, or you as your enterprise, etc. And what I thought was particularly interesting, we hear all these stories about the sort of slight hubris of Silicon Valley startups being created and then, running out of funding, going bankrupt again. There was just a story in the Czech Forbes today, I think, about a promising startup, and it's gone in 6 months. But both of the cases that you brought in your talk, they actually pivoted during COVID, during the conflict, the invasion. In the UK as well, the old fire station has adapted to the changing demands of regulation and the local community. So how comes, social enterprises actually seem more resilient than traditional enterprise?
perhaps it's again about collaboration and trust-based collaboration. Because especially if we talk about social entrepreneurship, the social component, social entrepreneurs and their partners, community, this ecosystem, they care about problems, and sometimes these problems close to everyone within this ecosystem. And I think it helps like to make this ecosystem stronger and this connection and trust like deeper.
And I'm just thinking as you're saying that as educators, and how do we sort of grapple with this? It's great to see our students and our alumni in Forbes, etc. We put a lot of emphasis on teaching them particular skill sets, not just academic knowledge. But I think we tend to think we're preparing them for the really harshly competitive environment of business, to be sharks, etc. But actually, maybe we should be teaching them, more empathy, more trust as well. How do you think we can approach this? Because if more resilient enterprises actually require those facets as well.
Yeah, I think education is extremely important for social entrepreneurship ecosystem forming and development in different countries. And I think we should start not only from universities, perhaps from school, when we should like share this thought. What about impact? What about to be more helpful? What mean to help another people to support your community in different ways. And I like this example in Ukraine, like school social enterprise. When actually provided some courses, selective courses at school, we have some different pilot program in Ukraine and teach pupils what does it mean to be social entrepreneur. Moreover, how to create your idea, how to implement your idea on practice. They get some micro funds for this idea, and with teacher as a mentor, they realized on practice. And I think this education through action, I think is the best example, even for students at university. Of course, for businessmen and for business world to be a shark, extremely important. But we also should think about people who close to us and how we can share this our profit and with another people.
Because I think we're getting to a stage societally with our students as well. We see that they're not just asking whether our alumni are successful, but they're asking about our values as well. And perhaps we grew up in environment where it's thought, profit and social impact are mutually exclusive. What was fascinating about your talk is enterprises that marry the two, right? They are for profit, but they have a very strong social mission as well. And I completely agree. I think teaching through practice, even just showing that that's possible, that you don't have to choose. Am I choosing my values or am I choosing making a profit? That's no longer a kind of contradiction that you have to grapple with. I'm still wondering, though, because we've talked about both entrepreneurship and resilience being very community-based, social enterprise being community-based. Is there still a danger of putting too much risk on the individual in terms of the founder's resilience, in terms of, the sort of the force of the values as well? So I'm imagining if a founder of a social enterprise gets into financial difficulties, financial sustainability difficulties, they may be faced with the even more difficult choice than a standard entrepreneur between keeping the enterprise running and their values. So how do you think they can grapple with preventing burnout and when they're juggling both worlds, right?
Yeah, I think this hybridity of social entrepreneurship, it's not easy to manage with these two components, two pillars, like business component and social component. But I think it's bringing, first of all, more power to social enterprises in ways that they don't only care about personal values, they care about another people. And they can be, weak. They can be, give up in this situation because a lot of people needs help.
Mm-hmm.
From another side, again, this component of social entrepreneurship, we talk about collaboration between different stakeholders, community, including community, and it's power of unity of different people organization. And I think it's create and make the social enterprises stronger because they don't operate in isolation. So all these partners support, and they support not only in like some money interest, they support like to help another people to solve some social problems. But again, I think it's personal from all of us. So if we have this social component in our head, so we really can do a lot of changes in our society and in our life as well.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as you were presenting, because that social embeddedness is a strength that you can draw on as well. And even if you have a social enterprise that has 100 or 500 founders, then of course that also actually minimizes the individual load on each one of them. And perhaps that's a good way of thinking about things like resilience without sort of putting too much pressure on any given individual to always be, always be true to their values, etc. Well, we've talked a lot about the dynamics of social enterprise. We've talked a lot about education as well, what we can do as educators. I'm wondering, based on your research, if you had to make a policy recommendation, if you had to tell the politicians one thing to do or to change, what would that be?
I don't know. It's again about trust and collaboration. And again, we don't build this collaboration, for example, with social entrepreneurship sector and public sector through strict rules or law. Perhaps I believe more powerful will be to create some strategy together. To have this dialogue and communication and to understand how social entrepreneurs can help government and how government can support social entrepreneurs on this way, let's say. So I think it's dialogue and collaboration. It's the way how we can build together.
I think that was really clear in the old fire station example that we saw today in the video, that also our students saw when we were in Oxford, is that they really approach their idea of even measuring impact by asking the people who use the facility and who work there, who collaborate somehow, and that through that kind of bottom-up collaboration, you build the trust, but you also get the real insight, rather than trying to implement something from above that might not fit the situation. Well, one of the reasons that we're doing this podcast is also to try and bring sort of real-world practical insights and guidance to our listeners. So my last question always is, if you had to give one piece of advice to your younger self, maybe before you started all of this research, what would that be?
Don't be scared. And dream big.
Wonderful. Alona, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for coming to Newton and talking to our colleagues and students. And hopefully I'll see you in Oxford soon again.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. And thank you so much to all of our listeners. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time for another episode of the Alma Matters Podcast.